Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Public Works for today, Wednesday, May 3rd, 2017.
Commissioner Rivas, Repenning, James, Davis, and Jacinto are present. President James, we have a quorum. May we start with Bureau introductions, please, starting with Bureau of Contract Administration.
Good morning, Frank Rinaldi with the Bureau of Contract Administration.
Good morning, Ruben Flamenco, Bureau of Street Lighting.
Good morning, Chime Ngong with the Bureau of Street Services.
Good morning, George Peba, Bureau of Sanitation.
Good morning, Mike Cirillo, Bureau of Engineering.
Good morning, Ted Jordan, Public Works General Counsel.
Fernando Campos, Executive Officer. President James, we do not have any speaker cards under general public comment, no commentary under the Neighborhood Council comment section, and no speaker cards on any of the items.
Let's try this. We'll close general public comment as well as the Neighborhood Council category of commentary. Just some assessment hearings let's take care of quickly. Agenda items 2 through 9, Bureau of Street Lighting assessment hearings in Council Districts 6, 7, 5, 9, 14, and 10. Mr. Flamenco on 2 through 9.
Ruben Flamenco, Bureau of Street Lighting. Items 2 and items 4 through 9 pertain to lighting districts which we are creating in conjunction with private development projects. Item 3 pertains to a lighting district which we are creating in conjunction with a Bureau of Street Lighting initiated LED conversion project. Only public parcels are impacted. No private parcels are included in the item 3 lighting district. Ballots for items 2 to 9 were mailed on March 23rd, 2017. Ballots must be received by the City Clerk's office by next Wednesday, May 10th. We have not received any objections to date on items 2 through 9. We are requesting for the board to adopt and forward items 2 to 9 forthwith to City Council.
Okay, no objections on 2 through 9. Is there a motion on 2 through 9? By Commissioner Rivas, seconded by Commissioners Davis and Repenning. Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda items 2 through 9. Any issues sending those forthwith? We'll send those forthwith. Agenda item number 1. Thank you, Mr. Flamenco. Agenda item number 1. Bids to be received on one public works project. Mr. Campos.
Thank you, Mr. President. Fernando Campos, Executive Officer. I understand we received 7 bids for today's bid openings. The bid is for the Secondary Sewer Renewal Program, SSRP P06, El Sereno Avenue and Edison. The city has estimated this project to be at $7,098,000 even, and this is in Council District number 14. We will now begin to open up the bids. The first bid is from Blois Construction Incorporated for a total bid amount of $8,486,684 even. That's 8486684 from Blois Construction Incorporated. The second bid received is from Vasilch Incorporated for a total bid amount of $7,624,682 even. That's 7624682 from Vasilch Incorporated. The third bid received is from Kolich & Sons LP for a total bid amount of $6,216,102 even. That's 6216102 from Kolich & Sons LP for the record line item number 7, and also the total bid amount has been lined out but initialed by the contractor. The fourth bid received is from Mike Perlich & Sons Incorporated for a total bid amount of $6,555,769 even. That's 6555769 from Mike Perlich & Sons Incorporated. The fifth bid received for this project is from Tomovich and Associates for a total bid amount of $7,517,097 even. That's 7517097 from Tomovich and Associates. For the record, line item number 7. Line item number 43 has been lined out, and both lines have been initialed. The sixth bid received for this project is from Ramona Incorporated for a total bid amount of $6,342,053.50. That's 6342053.50 from Ramona Incorporated. For the record, line item number 41 has been initialed, and the total item amount is $158,600. Not lined out, but initialed. And the final bid received for this project is from MNR Construction Incorporated for a total bid amount of $6,961,506.40. That is 6961506.40 from MNR Construction Incorporated. For the record, line item number 7, line item number 10, line item number 13, line item number 43 were all lined out and initialed by the contractor. President James, that concludes the bid openings.
All right, thank you. Is there a second to my motion confirming that the bids have been received, opened, and declared forthwith? By Commissioner Repenning. Any objection? Without objection, that'll be the order. Thank you. Agenda item number 10. Bureau of Engineering requested contract award with the Bureau of Contract Administration and Council District 15, San Pedro 3rd Street Relief Storm Drain, recommending that the board declare PMCM Consulting Engineers the first low bidder to be non-responsive as discussed in the report. Secondly, declare Mike Bubalo Construction Company Incorporated the second low bidder to be the lowest responsible bidder, and award them a contract for the project for $1,276,732, and authorize myself or two members of the Board of Public Works to execute the contract after approval as to form has been obtained from the City Attorney, Nadir Shah.
Nadir Shah, Bureau of Engineering, Street Improvement and Stormwater Division. This project will be undertaken in San Pedro, Council District number 15, along 3rd Street between Grand Avenue and Pacific Avenue. The intersection of 4th Street and Grand Avenue is frequently flooded during the storm events due to the inadequate storm drain capacity of the existing storm drain system. The proposed relief storm drain will convey approximately half of runoff that is currently running through the 4th Street and Grand Avenue intersection by installing approximately 576 linear feet of 48-inch diameter storm drain and associated structures. The construction duration for this project is 180 calendar days. The total construction funding with not to exceed amount is $1,404,406. 10 bids were received on February 8, 2017, ranging from $1.16 million to $2.39 million. The first low bid is 13% lower, and the second low bid is 4.4% lower than the city engineer's estimate of $1,336,364. PMCM Consulting Engineers, the first low bidder, failed to submit the complete surety bond. It is our recommendation that the board declare PMCM Consulting Engineer the first low bidder to be non-responsive, and declare Mike Pueblo Construction, the second low bidder to be the lowest responsible bidder, and award Mike Pueblo Construction, the second low bidder, a contract for this project for $1,276,732. Please let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you. Any questions at all? Commissioner Jacinto and then Commissioner Davis.
Thank you, President James. Nadir, thank you for the report. You know, the failure of PMCM to submit their surety bond, do you have any insight to that? Because I think we've seen this a couple of times where just want to understand better the rationale and the tactic involved here.
Yeah, they failed to submit a surety bond. It is one of the requirement in the bid proposal that the surety bond need to be signed both by the bidder as well as the surety company. So my understanding is when that bid is received, that surety bond need to be complete. And if it is not signed by the surety company or there is any discrepancy, the bid is rejected immediately. So the PMCM consulting engineer, they failed to do so not only on this project but on 3 previous projects with the city of Los Angeles as well.
So there's a trend there, and I'm just interested in finding out, you know, they submit the bids, but they fail to complete their surety bond, which is sort of, I'm not sure, but I think that there's something that maybe we could look into there.
And Commissioner,
Yes, Dr. Campos.
Commissioner, just to get to your question, we will be more than happy to reach out to this bidder and see if they are understanding of the process. So in a lot of cases where bidders do not submit their surety bond, they either fail to submit the affidavit, or they fail to sign it, or they fail to actually get the surety to actually countersign the affidavit. So in those cases, we will deem them non-responsive. In this case, since they've already done it 3 other times, what we will do, we'll happily reach out to the vendor just to make sure that they are aware of this. They may not be, or 2, they may be and they intentionally don't fill it out. So we just don't know. We just don't know.
Thank you. Commissioner Davis on agenda item number 9.
I just wanted to clarify a
10.
couple of issues in terms of this other issue that Dr. Campos mentioned. This prime contractor had the same problem on other matters. Is that what I heard you say, Dr. Campos?
2 others.
On 2 other occasions? Okay. Were there any other issues that were prevalent other than just the surety bond issue?
No other issues referenced in the report. Do you know of any other reference, Mr. Shaw? Any other non-responding?
I'm not aware of but our project award and control division, they looked at the history of this bidder and they found that they did the same mistake in the previous 3 projects as well for the bid.
I see.
Yeah.
But you don't know of any other issues that would render them non-responsive on this project?
Yeah, they were exact same non-responsive on the previous 3 contracts.
Understood that. Yeah. Okay.
So I also would just conclude by saying the other prime contractor who is eligible in terms of looking at their inclusion program, even though it's not the factor that has anything to do with the decision, it's still an observation worth mentioning that they seem to be progressive in terms of the inclusion that they have been able to accomplish in their competing for this particular contract. So I did want to note that even though in fact it would not be a determining factor in our decision, it is worthy of mentioning.
Thank you.
That's it.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Commissioner Davis. Is there a motion on agenda item number 10, going with the second low bidder? That's by Commissioner Davis, seconded by Commissioner Cinto. Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 10. Any issues sending number 10 forthwith? We will send number 10 forthwith. Thank you, sir.
Thank
Is there a second to my motion that we approve the meeting minutes from the meeting of Monday, April 17th, 2017 by Commissioner Davis? Any objection? Without objection, we will approve those meeting minutes. Agenda item number 11 is an oral report from Dr. Campos this morning on the Public Works Trust Fund. Fernando.
Good morning, Commissioners. Pleasure to be here again before you presenting an semi-annual report. One of the things that we've been doing over the last several years is to put our hands around the governance and the reconciliation of our Public Works Trust Fund. Not only have we instituted coming before your board on a semi-annual basis, I do meet with our Office of Accounting, our director, and also our Assistant Executive Officer on a monthly basis to discuss the Public Works Trust Fund. The item before you is just an oral report letting you know that our balance as of March 31st is $123 million. One thing that I'd like to highlight, of the $123 million, only about $34 million is what we have as net cash balance. What that means is that all the other monies are already spoken for in terms of restrictions or they're earmarked for a specific purpose. The other thing that I'd like to highlight in this semi-annual report is the amount of loans that we have outstanding. At one point, were about $30 million. We brought that dollar amount down to about $19 million, or about 15.8%. However, we do have some outstanding loans that were authorized by your board in the amounts of about $8 million, and those will be added to the loan portfolio as soon as we receive grant application notifications or acceptance of the grant from the bureaus requesting those loans. Once I add those together, we're approximately around $28 million in loans. That puts us around 22.7%. Our internal policy is to not lend more than 25% in loans from the existing balance. So one thing that you will start seeing for future loan requests, and you have in the past over the last month or two, is that you'll start seeing an additional comment in the fiscal impact statements letting you know exactly where we are percentage-wise. So we are closely looking at this, making sure that we do not pass that 25% threshold. Once we do that, then I will make recommendations not to move forward, or two, if you do decide to move forward and approve those loans, you do so with caution and understanding that we are exceeding that policy practice. For right now, you are fine. You're at under 20%, but with the outstanding loans that we have pending, that would put us around 23%.
We've got a restriction on us as long as that CAO loan of $10 million regarding this portion of the seismic bridge improvement program is taking up 51% of the loan range. What's the status on that one?
So that's a great observation, President James. We do have about 7 outstanding loans, or 7 departments that we have. The main debtor, if you will, or loan payer is the CAO's office. We have reached out to them. We've already reached out to them twice over the last year, and at the time that this board approved the loan, it was subject to conclusion of the seismic bond program. It was not specific to a specific project, but it was the actual programmatic closure of that.
Back in like 2009, 2010?
That was in the early 2000s, and the program is a 20-year program, so we do not anticipate a repayment for another 10 years or so for this loan. However, one thing that we are looking at and working with the CAO's office to see if they can do a down payment, if you will. Since this has been outstanding for almost 10 years now, we'd like to see at least a $2-3 million or even a $5 million payment, repayment back to this loan. However, the terms and conditions that this board approved back in the early 2000s was until the program ends, and so some clarity could have helped at that time.
Kind of ties our hands with what we would like to do here in more recent times. And if we can get a couple of $1 million from them on this, it would enable us to have a bit more freedom with what we want to do going forward without having to make a motion to adjust the 20%. But go ahead.
Correct. I completely agree with you, and we will continue to work with the CA's office, check in with them every 3 to 6 months to see where we are with that. But at this point, we are kind of tied hands behind our back. However, we can try to partner with them to see if we can get a down payment and reduce that loan outstanding. The other thing that we did with the governance, not only did we catch up on our 6 years backlog for reconciliation, we were able to separate what we call a pre and post 1989 restrictions. So we currently have about $11.8 million, and this is part of the Nexus study that we came before you a couple of months ago. In that respect, the Nexus study RFP was released in February 2017. Unfortunately, we did not get any bids back by the due date. So what we did is we extended the due date for the RFP. We did ask for a 45-day response. We added an additional 45 days. That gave us a 90-day time period to receive proposals. The other thing that we did to encourage more competition is that we removed the pre-proposal mandatory conference. In addition to that, we allowed folks to submit their bids a little longer than we had originally anticipated. After all that, we did make some phone calls to a couple of vendors to see if they would be interested, raise awareness. We did receive about close to 300 hits on the BAVN system. About 28 companies did reserve it as a favorite or as a project that they wanted to look out for. Unfortunately, we only received one bid in April of 2017. So we are now looking at the other 27 companies to see why they did not bid. Our expectation, and we anticipate to come before your board to award a contract to this sole bidder that we have. Approximately $137,000 is what the bid came in. I'm not going to go into the details because that's a pending item before you, but just know that we are moving forward with the Nexus study, and we anticipate to come before your board within the next 3 to 4 weeks to propose an award to move forward with the Nexus study. The other thing that we have done over the last 6 months is that we're now tracking the top 5 accounts that make up 73% of our balance. So the top 3 are our general improvement guarantee deposits, our B permits, and special projects. I believe of those the top 3 accounts, we've made major progress on the B permit side. For example, just to give you an idea as to where we were between fiscal year 12 and 14, our average balance transfer to the general fund was approximately $3.5 million per year. In 2015, that dropped to less than $500,000, so about $400,000. And then in fiscal year 16, we increased that transfer to about $12 million. This year, we're on target to come in around $11.5 million. And then next year, the proposed budget, we are proposing a $14.2 million transfer. So I think one thing that's coming out of this governance and close oversight is that we're seeing the machine running the way it should be. We are catching up on B permits. That does make up about $36 million of the $123 million that's in our Public Works Trust Fund, where we are churning that money out, making sure that we are charging against the B permits, making sure that we're transferring it. We are reconciling now on a monthly basis. Our delay is only 10 to 15 days post the month-end close, whereas in the past we were 6 years behind. The other thing that we're doing with transfers, we're now committed to do a transfer once per quarter as opposed to once per year. So I think that gives that sense of relief to the Bureau of Engineering that the monies are coming in, and also the Bureau of Contract Administration and Street Services, that the revenues are showing up on their budgets so that they are responsive to the mayor and the city council. So with that, I will open it up for any questions that you may have, and happy to report back to you in 6 months from now where we are with the Public Works Trust Fund.
Thank you, Fernando, for the update and the just the daily maintenance of the fund and the transparent reporting that I think is important. We'll start with Commissioner Jacinto.
Thank you, President James. Yo, Campos, thank you for this great report. You know, we're making great strides on the management and administration, financial accounting of the trust fund. Is this large in part due to the additional staff that we have in terms of?
I would attribute it to the dedicated response to what we did in terms of restructuring and realigning around the Public Works Trust Fund and making it more of a priority. We did receive one additional staffer about 2 years ago where we dedicated one senior accountant. However, in that senior accountant, it's a grade level 1. So what that means to us in the civil service world is that the difference between a 1 and a 2 is a significant increase for senior accountants. And we've lost 2 accountants in the past. And every time we lose that classification or we lose that position, it delays us anywhere from 3 to 6 months, sometimes even 9 months, just to hire someone on board to retrain them. And so one of the things that we are working with City Council and the Mayor and the CAO's office is to try to see if we can get that position upgraded graded. That is a challenge, but I believe that it's a mixture of the dedicated staffer plus the refocus and the realignment of getting the Public Works Trust Fund where it needs to be.
Very good. Thank you for your leadership on this.
Thank you. Anything further? Commissioner Rivas.
Thank you so much for this report. I had a question on the other loans besides the CAO's 10 million. Are those repayment terms also when the loan ends, like the 10 million?
No, not necessarily. What we're doing, what we've been doing for the last year is that we are now asking for repayment terms and conditions from the bureaus. So whereas in the past we would lend the monies out and then expect it at the end of the project, we are now asking the bureaus to come up with a repayment plan. So if it's based on a grant and that grant is on a reimbursement basis and that reimbursement happens on a monthly or quarterly basis, then we are asking that we get a payment on a quarterly basis as well. If it's a semi-annual drawdown, then we'll ask for it every 6 months. The bottom line is that we're asking for a funding date and a loan completion or repayment date, and then repayments in between. So it's no longer let's transfer the monies, lend the monies, and then collect it at the end of the project. It's now we're collecting in perpetuity or interim collections.
And what, do we notify the bureaus, or we rely on them to just, when they get the payment?
I think it's a partnership. One, the bureaus let us know exactly where it is. The second thing that we're doing is in your board reports, when you consider a loan approval, we will ask for the authority for the Director of Accounting to transfer the money. So as soon as we know that the monies are deposited into X fund, and we can tie that X fund for the grant reimbursement, then you've already authorized the Director of Accounting to transfer the money completely out of it. So it's no longer allowing the bureaus to make that determination. We make that determination with your approval and your authority.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Rivas. Commissioner Davis?
I wanted to, as we look at this trust fund, and we look at the stakeholders, those who are city departments who use the trust fund, what is the thinking of those stakeholders who are using the trust fund in terms of its usage and its access to them in terms of their own goals? Do you have any feedback from those who are using the trust fund in terms of their expectations with the trust fund and basically their satisfaction with having the opportunity to use it?
Yeah, I think there's been a paradigm shift over the last 2-3 years, or maybe even before I started here, and that is the old framework of there's money in the Public Works Trust Fund, let's go and ask for the loan, whereas in the past 5, 7, 8 years ago, we used to lend money to the city for payroll purposes, for other general city purposes. Now we're making it very specific to Public Works project, which is what the funds are intended for. In some occasions, we will, or the board may consider giving a loan for non-public works related projects, but recently, over the last 2 years, it's really been focused on that public works framework or nexus, if you will. So there's been a shift over the last 3-4 years in terms of money's there, let's go out and ask for the loan. There's additional funds that we can get to loans that are available specific to public works projects and advancing our mission here at the Department of Public Works.
So in terms of the mission and the purpose of the trust fund, in terms of the bylaws that we have for it, have any of those rules and regulations for which the usages of the trust fund have been implemented in the past, have any of those rules and regulations changed other than just simply our practice?
There's been 2 changes. One with asking for loans, first of all. So it used to be just come to the board and get the approval, or sometimes departments would bypass this board altogether and just go straight to the city council for approval. We're now reshifting that paradigm and saying you have to come to the board first to get the blessing. So now we have a pre-approval process, we have a board approval process, and then a city council process. That's the way it should be. However, in the past, it was completely bypassed directly to the city council. The other thing that we've done in terms of changes is that we're now asking for interest back on loans that we've initiated or fund. So if it's monies that are going to an account that earns interest that does not go back to the general fund, we're asking for that interest to be returned back to the Public Works Trust Fund. For example, if that $10 million loan that we lent out to the CAO's office had that condition, if you will, all that interest that has been earned for the last close to a decade now would have come back to the Public Works Trust Fund.
So in understanding the governance of the rules and regulations of the trust fund, is it appropriate to say that the governing body of the financial rules and regulations of the trust fund is the Board of Public Works, with the council having oversight and final decision of it, or how does it happen?
The final decision and the fiduciary responsibility lies here with your board. So at the end of the day, you are approving this. If you were not to approve it, City Council cannot assert jurisdiction over your funds.
So if the Board of Public Works is the fiscal governing body of the trust fund, of those individuals that choose to get funds from the trust fund, do they have a process by which they present to the board and the board signs off and gives authority before they can be able to get a loan from the trust fund?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we shifted and changed about a year ago. So now all the requests are coming through your board. If we find out that there is a request going to City Council, we will try to divert that and inform the City Council offices that it needs to come here, or it's subject to the Board of Public Works approval. And it sounds counterintuitive if they go straight to City Council first. We will put a subject to Board of Public Works approval. So we're having that internal control mechanism in place. But for the last year or so, everything's been going through your board first and then going to City Council for its blessings.
What form of communication does the request take to the board? Is it in the form of a motion? Is it in the form of a memorandum, administratively?
To your board, it's a report. It's a report.
So it comes to us in a board motion as other items do?
It comes to you as a board report, not a motion. If there is a motion, then it's my job to kick that motion back and have it turned into a report.
So when we have the report, what action does the board take on the report? They vote it up or down?
You either can accept the project that they're proposing, you can accept or reject the actual loan itself, and then you can also make any determinations to deviate from the existing policies, such as no charging of the interest rate, no repayment terms. You can deviate from the policy, but we will ask for that up front.
Okay. And so the request originates from which office that comes to us?
The original request for the loans come from the bureaus themselves to the Office of Accounting to get the pre-approval. Once it gets the pre-approval, it'll come to my office to get its blessing in terms of moving forward. We will then work with the bureaus to prepare a board report. That board report will then come to your board for approval consideration, and then if your board accepts the loan, then we will send it to the City Council for its blessings.
Now, I would think that there has to be some consensual decision-making process that would include executive office, therefore the mayor's office to some degree. Is it true that in fact there is some place in the process in which there is some executive review or acknowledgement or notification about the loan being requested?
Yeah, great question, Commissioner. I see your board as the executive decision maker. You are the fiduciary agent overseeing these funds at the end of the day, so you are the executives that are making the decisions on behalf of this fund.
I see. So it would be up to us to do our own review and background before we make a decision in terms of checking with other executive offices.
Absolutely. And about 3 months ago, when we hit close to that 20% mark, that's when we started shifting and adding additional language in your fiscal impact. So any loans reports that you're getting point in time forward, you'll see that additional sentence or two describing what the loan request would do in terms of impact and percentage of the loans outstanding.
Okay, so my final question is, in terms of the individuals who are working specifically administratively with the loan, that would be yourself and your staff, what level of satisfaction do you have in terms of our current operation practices with this trust fund?
You're putting me on the spot here. So if, in terms of level of satisfaction, if I had a rate 1 through 5, 5 being highly satisfied and 1 not satisfied, I would put ourselves around a 4 out of 5. I think that there's some improvements that need to be made, some challenge that we are faced with. 1, staffing. I don't believe that the staffing is at the right level. 2, I think that having more dedicated staff would help us get our hands around all 28 accounts. I'm just highlighting the top 3 accounts here, and I'm tracking the top 5. That comprises about 80 to 85% of the entire balance. The other 15%, although it's minimal, it represents 85% of all the accounts. and also represents about 10 to $15 million. So there is additional funds there. I would rate ourselves a 4 at this point in terms of level of satisfaction.
My concluding question, and I'm through, is then
Oh, no, keep going.
having said that, how often will you be reporting to the board about the status of the trust fund?
Currently, we're reporting on a semi-annual basis.
Okay. Do you feel that a semi-annual basis, I would suspect that's what, 2 times a year?
2 times.
Do you think that's sufficient, given your testimony, that we still have potential in terms of reaching satisfaction to being a project demonstrating excellence? In other words, if we're only at a 4, as you have testified, do you feel that it's sufficient to have only semi-annual reporting to the board, or do you think perhaps a more regular level of reporting might help increase both the communication on one hand and our performance in effectively managing the fund on the other?
Right. Good question. I would recommend the semi-annual is sufficient. I believe that when we start making the changes take 2 to 3 months before the changes actually take place, and then another month or 2 before we actually start seeing results. So before any intervention can be made, it'll take about 3 to 4 months before you actually see something. So if I were to report quarterly, I can report quarterly in terms of what I plan to do for the next quarter, and then come back with some report back in terms of I did it, and then we'll wait for the following quarter for a response or a outcome, if you will, or output. So the cradle to grave, the decision-making to the implementation or the intervention, and then the outcome will take about 4 to 5 months on average. So I think that 6 months is appropriate. However, if your board would like to change that frequency to quarterly, I'd be more than happy to come back on a quarterly basis.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Davis. You get these PhD types with their discussions back and forth. We appreciate it. No. Thank you, Commissioner Davis. Thank you, Mr. Campos. I would add one thing, just for the record, Commissioner Davis, that the board reports also indicate, and to the extent Dr. Campos didn't include this, it also includes one of our requirements for the loan, which is the source of funding for the repayment. Is that accurate, Dr. Campos?
That is 100% accurate.
And so I just think that helps in the process, and it helps the bureaus know, because sometimes various requests can come to the bureaus from the council office, from the mayor's office, from other from these places and that's always something that we like to know up front.
And without the repayment terms and the repayment source, we will not make a recommendation to this board to move forward. And if the bureaus do move forward without our approval, then we will definitely highlight that. But we have not encountered that scenario right now.
We take care of that on the front end, since this board's been intact. Yeah. Thank you. So anybody else? Thank you. The oral report will be received. Dr. Campos, have we cleared the desk?
Yes, you have.
Okay, then we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice Wednesday.